We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Welcome back to Paring Down, everyone. Listen, if you want to know how much I genuinely enjoy doing this podcast, I need to inform you that it is currently 7:27 a.m. on a Thursday morning as I record, because this is the only opportunity really for me to record this week. We are in the process of getting our house on the market because, as I shared with you all, we are moving to Kodiak, Alaska this summer from Florida. So there's just a lot going on at the moment. We've got our open house in 2 days. The photographers come today. And life is busy, but isn't it for all of us, right? And so, anywho, I just thought it was funny as I was sitting down at 7:27 in the morning to record, thinking, if the people hear my voice and think it sounds weird, they should probably know that it's because I woke up an hour ago. Anywho, I really do enjoy this a lot. And I don't think there are many things that I would willingly do that involve energy this early in the morning, except talk to you guys. And today we are talking about avoiding that vacation clutter because, believe it or not, spring break is right around the corner. I know Christmas was yesterday. Valentine's Day was 5 minutes ago. And yet, here the world turns. So we need to gear up in case you are deciding to go on a vacation for spring break. Maybe you have something coming up this summer. Really, anytime that you're going out of town, it can be a tempting opportunity to bring more into your home that you really don't need that will become clutter. So let's talk about it. How can we enjoy ourselves and feel like vacation is a special time, but without doing so in a manner that becomes overwhelming when it's all over and you're just left with a pile of souvenirs and clothes that you would never wear off of a cruise ship. You know what I mean? This episode actually came about because I had a friend text me who's also a listener, and she said that she's really struggling with not getting caught up in over-consuming as she prepares for a trip. I believe it was to Disney with getting matching family shirts and special vacation outfits and knowing that her kids are going to want souvenirs and she doesn't want to disappoint them. That kind of thing. And I was like, that is super valid and definitely something I can talk about because I know we all feel it. I feel it too. Not necessarily as much for myself anymore, but certainly as a parent, I always want my kids to feel like vacation is this magical thing, right? Whether it's Disney or we're going to camp at a campground, I just want them to have amazing memories. And we're very conditioned to think that the stuff is involved with making those memories, or we don't want to say no to them on vacation, right? So we're going to talk about the nuance of all of that today in a realistic manner, because that's what Paring Down is all about on the podcast, right? I'm not here to tell you to be a staunch minimalist or deprive your children or yourself in any way, but there are ways to go about these kinds of temptations that are just more reasonable and going to be better for your clutter experience in the long run. So let's start with some basic information about the trends regarding vacation wardrobes and souvenirs, just so we can get an idea of how pervasive this really is. Okay, so a survey conducted by the International Data and Analytics Group called YouGov in 2018 found that 65% of Americans bring souvenirs back from their travels. So that is a vast majority of us bring something home with us. This is a super interesting excerpt from the travel site afar.com about souvenirs. I'm actually going to read it verbatim because I just think it's an interesting historical piece about souvenirs. So it says, we have evidence of souvenirs going back to the ancient Roman period, with metal trinkets found on Hadrian walls in the northern Britain left by Roman troops stationed there, says Amy Clark, a senior history lecturer at the University of Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. There is also a huge amount of evidence of souvenirs from the Crusades and the Pilgrimages period, because people would buy and wear badges, pins, and medals stamped with the patron saint of the cathedral or region. So it would tell others that the wearer was a pilgrim on a holy quest. So that's kind of the history of where souvenirs started. It continues that, but with the advent of the more modern explorer and mass tourism have come consumer industries built around manufacturing and selling thingamajigs that have often little, if anything, to do with the destination one is actually visiting. People like to think that they are buying things that are authentic to the location, made by locals, sold by locals, with the profit going back into the local community. The reality is far from this ideal picture, with mass manufacturing often happening in places like China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, Clark says, pointing to dolls, mugs, and key rings made in offshore locations and labeled with places like London, Paris, Prague, Amsterdam, simply sent to those places for sale. So, if you're going somewhere on vacation that is like a cultural experience, I think it is important to remember that if your idea is to bring something back that is authentic, that does not include some of these more kitschy type souvenirs. And of course, there are plenty of souvenirs like a stuffy from Disney. We'll get into that kind of thing. That's not necessarily culturally related, but I just thought that history was really interesting about how far the souvenirs kind of date back when it comes to bringing things with us from somewhere that we have been. Okay, next, let's talk about vacation wardrobes. What's just some statistics and information about how we purchase ahead of time before we take the vacation. So this is an article written by the Business of Fashion. The Business of Fashion McKinsey Consumer Survey found that nearly 40% of consumers purchase new clothing to wear on their vacations. Now, that's not the majority, but still 40% of people buy new clothes specifically for vacation. The 2024 Consumer Survey found that 80% of global respondents expect to shop for clothes, footwear, and accessories while traveling. So what we're seeing here basically is that we want new stuff when it comes to vacation. We want to feel cute. We want to feel prepared. We feel like we need to do shopping ahead of time or even at our destination to make the experience the full vacation experience. So let's talk about 5 helpful ideas to keep vacation clutter at bay while still enjoying yourself and feeling like this is a magical experience. Number 1, shop for your daily life. So if you feel like you need to buy new clothes or you want to buy new clothes, if you don't have clothes you feel cute and good in at home, then fill those gaps and then take those clothes on vacation. Don't buy things that will only make sense for the vacation that you're taking. And I know this is not a minimalist approach, that someone would say that it's okay if you want to buy new stuff or wear different clothing, but we can't ignore the research on the other side. I think this is the tough part with any topic, decluttering included, is that I can't just share with you the research that supports why you shouldn't buy stuff, right? I mean, we know what it does to the planet. We know what it does to our homes. We know what it does to our sense of self when we wrap it up in belongings. However, there is a flip side, not as supported by research, but there is something called enclothed cognition. Okay, this is an academic paper published by Hajo Adam and Adam D. Galinsky in 2012 in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. Basically, they introduced this term, enclothed cognition, to describe the systematic influence that clothing has on a wearer's psychological processes. So their goal was to capture this diverse impact that clothing can actually have on the person who's wearing it. So as a first test of their enclothed cognition perspective, the research explored the effects of wearing a lab coat. They found that a lab coat is generally associated with attentiveness and carefulness. And they predicted through this study that wearing a lab coat would actually increase performance on attention-related tasks. So they had these three different experiments. So the first one, they found that physically wearing a lab coat increased selective attention compared to not wearing a lab coat at all. And in experiments 2 and 3, wearing a lab coat described as a doctor's coat, so that description, increased sustained attention comparing to a lab coat that was described as a painter's coat. So this goes to show that what we wear can actually impact how we behave, how we feel about ourselves, right? These kinds of things can be wrapped up in what we wear. Now, vacation clothes, doctor clothes, right? There's a bit of a jump there. However, there's been additional research supporting different kinds of feelings we can feel when we put on different clothes. In fact, there was a 2020 study that found that women who wore heels versus flat shoes felt and behaved more powerfully and authoritatively by thinking more abstractly and taking more actions, which are 2 hallmarks of high power, but only when the heels were worn conspicuously, interestingly enough. So when the wearer knows the observer can see them. So if you're like on a Zoom call, wearing heels isn't going to do you much, but walking into the office where people can see that you're wearing heels actually made you take more action and think more abstractly from a place of power and confidence. Isn't that interesting? Now, this idea of enclothed cognition, which covers the lab coat or the shoes or, actually, I think 40 to 100, I forget, somewhere in there, of other studies that have been, have followed up this initial study in 2012. It's been a bit controversial because in the world of psychology, nothing is ever proven. Okay, so research can support a theory, but intricacies and the individualized nature of the human experience means that proving something is pretty much out the window, which is why I'm always cautious when we're talking about psychology and how it relates to things, is that there's, of course, such legitimacy in these controlled studies. I don't want to say that's not true. However, they can be controversial, especially when it's a standalone paper or a standalone study. So with that in mind, I do want you to know that this is legit enough because Dr. C. Blaine Horton Jr. of Columbia University and their colleagues set out to conduct a thorough analysis of every experimental peer-reviewed study on enclothed cognition published in English that they could find. In total, they identified 40 such studies. Okay, yep, I was right, somewhere around there, from 24 different articles. So they then used a statistical tool called a Z-curve analysis. Woo, this brings me back to college because, like I've said a million times, I was a psych major if you're new. And so, oh my gosh, when I read Z-curve analysis as I was researching this episode, I was like, wow, is it 2009? You know what I mean? But anyways, so basically though, you don't need to know all the intricacies of Z-curve, but basically what this kind of statistical tool does is it reveals the presence of a publication bias. So whether negative findings have been underpublished, and overall though, this new work using the Z-curve did suggest that the core idea of enclothed cognition is generally valid. So there were some concerns. There were some kind of like underpublished ideas that didn't align with enclothed cognition, but overall, it suggests that the idea is valid. So why am I talking about this? Why am I telling you that wearing clothes can make you a certain way? Well, because I want you to know that you're not crazy for wanting to shop more before your vacation. When we're on vacation, we want to feel relaxed. We want to feel kind of separate from our daily lives. And it is very legitimate that our clothing can make us feel different. And now you're like, Shannon, I didn't tune into this podcast for you to make me want to shop more. Good, because that's not what I'm telling you to do. My argument here would be that we should select our daily wardrobes to reflect how we want to feel, because it does affect how we feel. How we dress can affect the decisions that we're making and how we even behave in life. So I do think it is not unimportant to select a wardrobe in your daily life that reflects how you want to feel and how you want to behave. So my argument would be, why are we shopping for vacation clothing to feel that way on vacation? Why aren't we shopping for clothes that make us feel that way all the time, and then go ahead and take those on vacation. Select clothing to wear regularly that makes you feel beautiful, that makes you feel comfortable, relaxed, all of the things that you want to feel on vacation, okay? And if you're thinking, well, I shop for vacation clothes out of practicality, right? Like I need more warm clothes when I'm going on vacation. Listen, that's not usually such a case unless you live in San Diego, California, and you're going on vacation to go somewhere that's very, very cold and snowy, then sure, you might need to get some warm clothes. And we'll talk about options for getting warm clothes for vacations in areas that are different from yours without actually buying stuff here later on in the episode. So like maybe that's the extreme. But most of us, wherever we live, even San Diego, have some level of warmer weather versus cooler weather. We all own shorts and pants. We all own sweaters and summer dresses. Most of us, obviously, most of us, and I'm talking from a woman's perspective. Although if you're a dude that likes to wear summer dresses, I'm not here to stop you. But the idea here is that if you feel like you need more summery type clothing for your vacation, shop for the kind of warm months where you live, not resort wear that you're never going to wear in real life. And if you can look in your wardrobe and say, I have plenty of summer clothes in my wardrobe, then you have plenty of warm, like that kind of weather clothes for your vacation. If they are not making you feel good, then that's when you need to reevaluate what your daily wardrobe, what your daily summer wardrobe looks like. And you might be thinking, oh, well, like I'm chasing kids most of the days and I'm going on a vacation where I need to have something nicer or this or that. Again, I will talk to you about options for renting, options for putting on clothes that wouldn't make sense in your normal life that maybe you do kind of quote need for a vacation. But overall, like for me, when I'm going on vacation, usually I'm bringing my kids. So I can't just be like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'm going to wear this really impractical, beautiful thing. No, my kids are just as likely to spill milk on me on vacation as they are at home, you know? So I think we need to take a practical idea with ourselves that we're not going to magically turn into a new person on vacation. You are not going to suddenly wear really uncomfortable clothes to go walk around or whatever you're doing on vacation. You're going to put on the thing in your suitcase that you wear at home all the time because that's what's comfortable to you. So, you know, like have a little bit of a heart to heart with yourself to stay realistic here. Okay. So that first one is to shop for your daily life. If you feel like you need to get new clothes, go ahead and look at what your actual wardrobe, your daily wardrobe looks like, and let that be the guide for you to wear clothes that make you feel good all the time, not just on vacay. Number 2, we're going to talk about renting clothes here because I kind of alluded to that. So rent clothes. If you feel like you want to have new clothing for vacay, it doesn't mean that it needs to now live in your closet for all of time. Okay. So for resort wear or just general clothing to go walk around, if you're like, I don't know, going to go walk around Europe or something, that's a very fancy vacay. But, you know, you can use Rent the Runway, Nuuly, Nuuly, Fashion Press. These are 3 really big ones. Okay. Listen, if you need hiking clothes, hiking gear, you can rent hiking gear from many outdoor retailers, including Kitlender, REI, and Outdoors Geek. If you need snow clothing, you can rent this from Kitlender. They have ski and snowboard clothing rentals, jackets, pants, boots, gloves, goggles. Slope Threads is another option. It's called Slope Threads. I don't know if I said that clearly, but you can rent ski clothes, gear, equipment online with free delivery and returns. None of this, by the way, is sponsoring the podcast. Okay. I'm just letting you know that if you want to rent clothing, it's out there. And then you don't have to have it all in your house when you get back. You know what I mean? And so you might be thinking, well, I don't want to spend money on something that I am not going to keep. I think that so many of us, we buy new stuff all the time when we're going on vacation. Might as well go ahead and rent it and return it and not deal with it in your closet, pretending like you're going to wear it on your next vacation, when by the time you go on another vacation, you're going to get the urge to wear something new and special all over again anyway. You're not going to rewear that for the most part. I'm not saying that it's bad if you do. Listen, that's great. We should be rewearing our clothes. I'm just trying to help you, if you're the kind of person that likes to wear new stuff on vacation, recognize that renting it is not a waste of money, because ultimately you're getting the same experience. You're wearing it once and never again. Might as well just not have it in your closet. Here are some other really good reasons to rent. First of all, it does save you money. Instead of spending a lot on outfits that you'll only wear once or twice, you can rent these really high quality pieces for a fraction of the price of buying. I mean, you can get super cute name brand, if that matters to you. Doesn't really to me, but dresses on Rent the Runway. Like I've used Rent the Runway a lot and it's an amazing experience and you do save a lot of money. You can try out kind of these more stylish or luxury type clothing that you would normally never purchase. If you want to feel different on your vacation, have that, enclothed cognition to make you feel a certain way, but you're not sure that you want to commit to that level of fashion in your daily life, you can try out something and you're not stuck with it forever or have spent all this money on it to own it, right? It's an eco-friendly choice. Renting reduces fashion waste so tremendously because it supports sustainability by maximizing the use of each garment. Essentially, you're sharing and they clean it for you, which is another perk. You don't have to worry about cleaning your clothes after vacation. You just send them back and they get them all cleaned up. And then, of course, it's perfect for these special events or weather appropriate clothing that you might need on a practical level. So if your trip includes a fancy dinner, a wedding, a themed party, you can rent the perfect look, but you don't have to commit to keeping it forever. So it's a great option for special events or renting items suited to your destination's climate without investing in pieces that you're going to rarely need. Hey guys, it's time for your ad break. Each week I like to say a huge thank you for your graciousness that these are part of the podcast. Here we go. So guys, my daughter is really rude to me. She's 5 years old. She has no filter and she will let me know what she thinks of what I look like and what I smell like. And frankly, the other day, I wrapped her up in a big old bear hug and she said, "Mommy, you smell disgusting." To which I said, "You are a rude little booger, but you know what? Thanks for your honesty and I love you anyway." And you know why she said that? It's because I wasn't wearing any deodorant, folks. I was just living my best weekend life. But my daughter likes to hug me a lot more when I have on my Lume deodorant. I'm not kidding. It smells like coconut and she says it smells like we're on a Disney cruise, which is accurate. And so if you want your daughter to hug you, go ahead and wear Lume products. I'm kidding, but also not really kidding. Okay. People can smell you. It's not just your daughter. Other people just aren't as rude, I absolutely love my Lume deodorant. It is doctor developed, aluminum and baking soda free, naturally scented, non-staining, and it is effective, which is very important. It also is gentle. So I've said this before, but I used to get this kind of rash under my arms from some more natural deodorants. And so I finally feel like I've found one that is healthy, but doesn't actually irritate my skin. So that's a good note as well. It was created by an OBGYN who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. So they came up with a bunch of different options. There's a solid deodorant stick, there's a sweat controlled deodorant, and there's even a spray deodorant, still aluminum free. Speaking of all of those different options, Lume's starter pack is a perfect option for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for my listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lume products with my exclusive code. And if you combine it with the 15% off that already comes with the discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off the starter pack. So use code PAIRING. Remember, there's no I in pair, PARING, for 15% off your first purchase at lumedeodorant.com. That's code PAIRING at LumeDeodorant.com. LumeDeodorant.com. Please support Paring Down and tell them that I sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Lume. The next piece of this whole renting situation that's not an option is matching family outfits. And since my friend brought that up, I would love to touch on what I have done about family outfits. So my personal history with matching family outfits is I used to be obsessed. We would have matching swimsuits for vacation and matching dinner outfits and matching shirts. I mean, it was like a whole identity, I feel like, before I started my decluttering journey. And then I realized that I didn't actually love the, let's say, matching dresses with my daughter. I just got them because they were cute with my daughter. And I learned that if I'm not going to wear it, if I don't like it enough to wear it as a standalone piece without my daughter around, there's no point in buying it because she's going to grow out of hers in 3 months. And then I'm going to be stuck with this dress that I don't really like. And then I'm never going to wear it. And it's really kind of a waste. So when it comes to matching stuff, like, again, this same thing for swimsuits, right? Like we got these swimsuits that we're never going to wear. And they didn't even look good in person. They were just like kind of cute enough for a picture. It was just so, I realized that it was really a reflection of showing up online in a certain way, and it wasn't actually authentic. Like, I don't think my kids got a kick out of it as much as I did it for the gram. And that's really humbling to say out loud, but I think that that was the case, because when I really evaluated like why I was doing it as I was kind of in this decluttering and reflecting on my consumption journey, I realized that I didn't want to do those matching outfits anymore. And I didn't care about posting it online. And I don't know, I just stopped caring. And it didn't mean I stopped caring about my kids. That's one thing that hasn't changed. So the only reason then it made sense that I had been into it was because it looked cute for the gram. And that was a real punch in the gut, because I really thought that I wasn't doing it for the gram. But when I really had to sit back and evaluate it, I realized that's kind of what I was doing. I was doing it for other people, not even for my own family. Now, there is part of me that does love, dressing up with my daughter and wearing a matching dress with her. That has nothing to do with the internet. So I'm not saying that's bad, because I have done that since, like, just her and me, but I've been very conscious to make sure that the outfits I'm choosing are ones that I would wear on my own, or it's something that I know without a doubt is a one-time use, and I'm buying it from an ethically sustainable source, and that I'm going to resell it. Like, I do that with that in mind. As far as family t-shirts go, it's kind of the same thing. Like, would you wear it as a t-shirt around, not just at Disney on your trip? Or could your kids wear it to soccer practice? Like, it's okay. I'm not saying it's bad to buy these family t-shirts, but don't get ones that are so egregiously ugly that you would never wear them again, right? Just like, make it so that you're like, okay, I would wear this around town with a pair of jorts on my way to go grocery shopping or whatever. Like, think about it and consider if there's any t-shirts that you already own that you'd be willing to get rid of to make room for this one, so that you're not crowding your closets. There's no right answer. Some people are going to say family t-shirts or matching outfits or shopping at all before a vacation is a waste. And some people are going to say, YOLO, life is too short. And I land in the middle. Just make good choices, people. And recognize that, like, if you don't have family t-shirts, it's really not the end of the world. Like, your kids are still going to have a great time. They care more about Mickey Mouse than about the shirt that they're wearing, Okay, so those first two, the one about shop for your daily life and then rent, those are about the pre-vacation shopping. Now let's talk about souvenirs. Number 3, to keep the vacation clutter at bay, set a souvenir budget or boundary. This goes for kid stuff too. What I mean is there's kind of like 3 types of boundaries here with souvenirs. What kind of souvenir that you're going to buy, what size of souvenir, and what cost of souvenir. And do this before your trip. That way you have boundaries in place for yourself or to tell your kids yes or no. Oh, and then of course, the 4th one is the number of souvenirs. Duh. That's one I was so obvious that I kind of left off. But have that boundary for how many you're going to get, the kind you're going to get, the size, and the cost. Those 4 elements are super important. So that way when your kid does hold up a stuffy the size of an actual polar bear, you can say, sorry, bud. Remember we talked about what kind of souvenir we can get, and that is not the right size, right? You can say we get one souvenir, and it has to be something that is like, you have too many stuffies. We can't get something that's a stuffy, and we can't get something that you can use to hurt your brother or sister. That's big in our house. Like, no more swords and lightsabers, please. Those just cause so many arguments, right? So that would be a boundary we have. No more stuffies, no more, weapons. And then, so that's the kind of souvenir. You get one, that's the number. The size of the souvenir, it has to be something that can fit in your backpack. Okay, so that you can carry it home. And what is the cost of the souvenir? It cannot cost more than $30. So that is something that I would set with my kids ahead of time, so that they know when we go on our vacation, that is what's happening. And you can do that for yourself too. You can say, I'm not going to get something that is not made in the country that I'm going to. I'm going to make sure that it's locally made. I'm going to make sure that it can fit in this kind of a suitcase. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't cost more than this. So setting those boundaries with yourself and with your kids ahead of time really cuts back on those expectations and disappointment while you're there. They're still kids. They're going to try and push the boundaries, but it's a whole lot easier when you've had this conversation ahead of time. The next big one, number 4, when it comes to avoiding clutter, is prioritize consumables. So You don't have to even say one souvenir. I've gone on vacation with my kids and the answer is 0 souvenirs, my friend, but you can prioritize consumables. So I can say, hey, your special thing today was that you got to experience X, Y, or Z. Or a big one for kids, because they don't, at least my kids, because they're still super young, don't really understand that an experience is as exciting as a thing. I mean, they're excited when we get to go camping or we go to, I don't know, we went to the Grand Canyon once, or if we go to Disney or we go wherever we're going, but they still are young enough that they feel like something tangible is really so exciting to them. And so we do that through food. And again, I'm not like a food psychologist, so apologies if this is unhealthy, but I will say to them, hey, at home you normally don't get dessert every night. On vacation we get to have dessert after dinner every single night. Isn't this the coolest? Or you get to have a churro. How fun. And I'm not just feeding my kids sugar on vacation, for the record. I'm not. I wouldn't do that to myself, frankly. They would be off the walls. But there's enough to say, oh, we're going to go have dinner in Cinderella's castle. That is something that we're doing. And, that part for them, it is an experience, but they also recognize that it's a special experience within the experience. Like my kids, they are so excited if we get to go to Disney, but they also, while we're there, want to feel like something special. So to them, that tends to be a tangible whatever they see in a store. But if I say, we're going to go have a special lunch with Cinderella, that also kind of works, And again, I'm talking about some pretty privileged vacation experiences. I recognize that, but this can be applied to anywhere that you go. Okay. So number 3, I should have numbered these. I just have bullets in front of me. 3 was set a souvenir budget. 4, prioritize consumables and experiences. And number 5, this one has been great for me, is I avoid souvenir clutter by planning for our family yearbook. So every year I make a family yearbook and it has all the pictures basically that I want to keep from my phone from the last year. Some people make different albums per vacation. Like they might have a spring break 2025 album or something that they make. I love having hard copy yearbooks. I talk about this more in the episode I did a million years ago, it feels like at this point, probably about a year ago, about photo clutter and how when we keep things just on our phones digitally, we feel like they last forever, but then they realistically get lost in oblivion. To me, there's nothing more special than flipping through a photo album, like a tangible photo album, to remember and get nostalgic about stuff. Gosh, we just did this the other day. My husband and we got like these hard copy 5x7 photos of our kids with Santa this year. Like that's how the place where they took pictures with Santa did it. They gave you a hard copy instead of digital. And so those had been on our fridge and I took them off as we, clear off our fridge to make it look clutter-free as possible for getting the house on the market. And so I went and put those in our 5x7 album. And as I was putting them in, it was just kind of fun to flip through and look at all the other photos in there. And my kids ended up coming over while I was doing it. Like, what are you doing? And then my husband came over and the whole family, we sat there and looked at photos for like 15 minutes. It was so much fun. And so anyways, I really am a big believer in physical photo albums. And so what I do for our family yearbooks is I really consider, how am I capturing the memories of this vacation to go in this album? And that actually cuts down on useless photographs and it increases my awareness that I don't need to buy stuff in order for this memory to remain. You know what I mean? Like it really helps me stay more in the moment. And that might sound counterintuitive because I'm talking about pictures, but I'm not snapping 1,000 pictures because I know I don't have room in my family yearbook for 300 photos from one vacation, right? Like I don't need a picture of my kids with every single different character. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we see a character my kids want to take a picture with, 1,000% I'm going to do it, and not all of them make it into the family yearbook. But the point is I don't need so many pictures of so many ridiculous things that I can live more in the moment and only really pull out my camera when I know it's a moment that's worth going in the family yearbook, right? And then beyond that, because I'm thinking about that family yearbook, I recognize that I'm going to relive these memories through those pictures and through my own memories too, right? Like you don't even need pictures, frankly, to remember a vacation. I have so many, gosh, I think about like summer camp growing up. And sure, I have some pictures of summer camp, but like my memories are with me. You know what I mean? It was the best time of my life. And I have vacations that I've taken with friends or whatever that I have like one picture or almost none, right? And the things that are the most memorable from those vacations are not things we even have pictures of, right? So like, I also don't want you to think like you can't just accept your memories as your memories. But I don't know. I just find that I don't feel as tempted to bring home clutter when I'm letting the pictures serve as the memories. So plan for your own family yearbook. If you guys are curious, I use Chatbooks. Again, not sponsored. I just think it's a really easy app to create a family yearbook. And that's what we've done for the last, I think, like 6 or 7 years. So yeah, those are your 5 ways to avoid vacation clutter. Shop for your daily life. Rent what you're going to wear on vacation. Set a souvenir budget or boundary. Prioritize consumables and experiences. And plan for your family yearbook. All right. I hope that that was helpful. I hope that you feel seen and validated if you do struggle with vacation clutter. And know that, because of enclothed cognition, because of very strong historical ties, souvenirs and vacation shopping doesn't make you crazy. Those are really, really normal, common feelings and experiences and desires. But we can make much more intentional decisions that don't affect our daily lives when we get back and turn into clutter in our homes that stresses us out. All right. It's now 8:06 a.m. on a Thursday. I got to go clean up. Luckily, having a decluttered home does make getting ready for getting the house on the market really easy. We've basically had very little to do, but I do need to go wipe the counters, vacuum, do all of those special things, make all the beds, that kind of thing. So I'm off to do that. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next week with another guest episode. Bye. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face. So thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at paring_down, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.